The colony ship Aurora Dawn floated in the dark silence of space, its silver hull reflecting the cold light of a dying star. Inside, the air was heavy with tension, every corridor filled with whispers about the future of the human race. Earth was gone now, burned and broken, left behind after the Great Collapse. Only 500 humans had survived, carried away by this last great ship. Among them was Ethan Cross, a man chosen for one of the most important and unusual missions in history. Ethan was a breeder, selected to help rebuild the human population. But he would not be breeding with another human. No, his partner would come from an alien race, one of the allies humanity had made during its desperate search for help. The Serathians were among the most mysterious of these allies, tall, graceful beings with smooth silver skin and eyes that glowed like stars. They were beautiful, but their beauty came with danger. No one fully understood their true goals or why they had agreed to help humans at all. The ship's captain, Admiral Harris, had called Ethan to the meeting chamber. "This is your day." "Cross," the captain had said, his voice low. "You'll meet your assigned partner. Choose her and begin the program." Ethan nodded, but a strange feeling twisted in his stomach. He had seen the files, pictures, and short profiles. But something about his assignment was different. The captain's eyes had been cold when he spoke, like he was hiding something. When Ethan entered the meeting chamber, he saw the long table, the polished metal walls, and the faint hum of the ship's engines underfoot at the far end. A group of council members waited, their faces serious. One of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Kira Vance, leaned forward. "Mr. Cross, you have been given a rare situation," she said. "You must choose between two candidates. Both are from the Serathian royal bloodline." Ethan frowned. "Two?" he asked. "I thought the rule was one partner per human." "It is," Kira said. "But these two are sisters." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. "They are twins," Admiral Harris added. "Their names are Lyra and Naira, and they are unlike any Serathians we have met before." Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken. He had never met a Serathian in person, and now he would be meeting two at once. "They are arriving now," the captain said, his voice quieter than before. "Remember, you must choose only one." The chamber doors slid open with a hiss, and then they stepped inside. Lyra and Naira looked almost exactly the same, tall, elegant, with long silver hair that shimmered as they moved. Their eyes glowed a deep violet, locking onto Ethan with an intensity that made him feel both exposed and seen. They wore dark, flowing robes that seemed to float around their bodies like they were underwater. But the most unsettling thing was the way they moved in perfect harmony. Every step and every tilt of the head matched exactly. It was like watching one person in two bodies. They stopped just a few feet away. For a long moment, no one spoke. Ethan felt the air grow heavier, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then, together, the sisters spoke, their voices blending into one sound. "You are the one," they said, their tones soft but certain. Ethan blinked, unsure if they were speaking to him or about him. Before he could ask, Lyra tilted her head slightly. "They told you to choose one of us," she said, "but they did not tell you the truth." The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "What truth?" Ethan asked, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. Naira's glowing eyes narrowed. "If you choose one, the other will die," she said simply. Ethan felt the room spin slightly. "That's impossible," he said. "Why would that happen?" Lyra stepped closer. "Because we are not separate," she whispered. "We are two halves of the same mind." The silence in the room deepened. Ethan looked to the captain, but Harris avoided his eyes. Dr. Vance finally spoke. "This is why we allowed the choice, Mr. Cross. The rule stands, one partner per human, but the sisters have made it clear they will not survive apart." Ethan looked back at the twins. Their eyes never left his. He could feel something, a faint vibration in the air between them, as if an invisible thread connected all three of them in that moment. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Lyra and Naira shared the smallest of smiles. "Because you are the only one who can complete the bond," they said together. The words sent a shiver down his spine. He didn't know what they meant. But he knew one thing. This was not just about survival. There was something much bigger happening here, something no one was telling him. The captain cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "You have 24 hours to decide. Cross," he said. "Choose one of them and report back. Ethan's." Jaw tightened. He had a feeling that this was not a decision he could make by logic or by rule. His instincts screamed that choosing one would be a mistake, as the sisters turned to leave. Their glowing eyes still fixed on him, Ethan knew the truth. He was not going to choose one, he was going to choose both. And whatever happened next, the whole ship would feel it. The next 24 hours passed like a storm in Ethan's mind. He walked the long corridors of the Aurora Dawn, hearing only the echo of the sisters' words. "If you choose one, the other will die." It was impossible to forget, even in the hum of the ship's engines, even in the quiet of his own cabin. Their voices lingered in his head like a whisper that wouldn't leave. The rules were clear. Every human breeder could only bond with one alien partner. It was the foundation of the colony's survival plan. Too many bonds to one person could cause imbalance, they said. It would threaten the genetic diversity they were trying to protect, but none of the rules had been written for a case like this. None of the rules had ever imagined Lyra and Naira. Ethan didn't sleep. Instead, he stared at the small window of his cabin, watching the stars slide by like cold sparks in the dark. He thought about Earth, the flames, the dust, the empty streets, and about how fragile humanity had become. They were clinging to survival with fragile hands, but maybe survival wasn't just about numbers. Maybe it was also about trust, and something more powerful than rules. When the morning cycle came, Ethan made his way to the council chamber. The doors opened with their soft hiss. The room was already full. The council members sat in a row with Admiral Harris in the center. Lyra and Naira stood at the far end, their hands folded in front of them, eyes glowing faintly. They didn't look nervous. If anything, they looked like they already knew what was about to happen. "Mr. Cross," the captain began, "have you made your choice?" Ethan stepped forward, feeling every eye in the room on him. "I have," he said, his voice steady. There was a pause. "Then name the one you choose." Dr. Vance said, her tone clipped. Ethan looked at the twins. He thought about the way they moved together, the way they spoke in perfect harmony. He thought about their warning and the strange pull he felt toward them. Finally, he spoke. "I choose both." The words landed in the room like a dropped weapon. The silence was sharp. One of the council members leaned forward, his voice rising. "That is against every law of the program." "I know," Ethan said, "but if I choose one, the other dies, and I will not start humanity's future with a death I could have prevented." The captain's face hardened. "This isn't about feelings, Cross," Harris said. "This is about survival for our species." Ethan stepped closer, his tone unshaken. "And how do we survive if we kill allies who came to help us?" No one answered. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "Your rules do not understand us," she said softly. Naira stepped forward beside her. "If you separate us, you destroy us. And if you destroy us, you destroy the bond that will protect your people." Several council members shifted in their seats, uneasy. Dr. Vance narrowed her eyes. "What bond are you talking about?" she asked. The sisters looked at Ethan, the one he has already begun. Lyra said. Ethan frowned. "I haven't. You have." Naira interrupted. "When you looked at us. When you felt the truth of our connection. You let part of yourself open, and the bond began." Ethan didn't understand all of it, but he knew they weren't lying. He could feel something, a faint hum under his skin, a strange awareness of them even now. The council erupted into arguments, voices overlapping. This cannot be allowed. It's dangerous. It could break the entire program. Through the noise, Ethan stood still, his eyes on the twins. In that moment, he decided he didn't care about their approval. He cared about keeping them alive. And something deep inside told him this choice would decide more than his own future. It might decide the fate of everyone on the ship. The captain finally raised. "A hand enough," he said, his voice like steel. "Mr. Cross, I am giving you one last chance to follow the rules. Choose one sister, or you will be removed from the breeder program." Ethan took a slow breath. "I told you already," he said. "I choose both." A cold silence followed. Admiral Harris's eyes narrowed. "So be it," he said. "Until we decide what to do with you, you are confined to your quarters." Two security officers stepped forward, but Lyra moved before they could reach Ethan. Her eyes blazed brighter, and the air between them seemed to vibrate. "You will not touch him," she said. Her voice sharp and unshakable. Naira's voice joined hers. "If you harm him, you will make an enemy of the Serathian royal line." The guards froze, unsure. The captain clenched his jaw but waved them back. "Fine," he said, "but this isn't over. We will hold a vote tomorrow, and if the council votes against, both of them will be sent back to their homeworld without you." Ethan felt the threat like a knife. The sisters stepped closer to him, standing on either side. Naira leaned in, her voice low. "They will try to turn you against us before the vote," Lyra added, "and they will use fear to do it." Ethan glanced between them. "Then we won't give them the chance," he said. The twins shared a look, a silent message passing between them. Finally, Naira smiled faintly. "Then come with us," she said. "There is something you need to see." The council watched in silence as Ethan left with the sisters. No one stopped them, but every step out of that chamber felt heavier than the last. He didn't know where they were taking him, but he knew one thing. His choice had just turned the entire ship against him, and there was no turning back. The corridors of the Aurora Dawn felt different when walking with Lyra and Naira. People moved out of the way, some with respect, others with fear. Ethan noticed the stares, the whispers, but no one dared speak directly. The twins walked in perfect step, silent, until they reached a sealed door near the lower decks. "This part of the ship is restricted," Ethan said quietly. "It is restricted to humans," Lyra replied, her voice calm. "Not to us." The door slid open at their touch, revealing a dimly lit room filled with strange symbols on the walls. The air inside was warm, almost alive, carrying a faint humming sound that seemed to come from nowhere. "What is this place?" Ethan asked. Naira stepped forward, running her fingers over one of the glowing symbols. "This is the dream chamber," she said, "a place where the Serathian mind can travel beyond the body." Ethan frowned, like a vision. "More than a vision," Lyra said. "It is truth shown before it happens." They guided him to a circular platform in the center of the room. The floor pulsed softly under his boots, like the heartbeat of some great living thing. Lyra and Naira stood on either side of him, their hands gently touching his arms. "You asked why we chose you," Naira said, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "We did not choose you." Lyra continued. "The bond did." Ethan opened his mouth to ask what they meant, but the hum around him grew louder. The symbols on the walls began to spin slowly, their light deepening from gold to crimson. His vision blurred. The floor seemed to vanish, and suddenly he was somewhere else. He stood on a rocky plain under a sky filled with fire. Two moons hung above, one cracked and bleeding light in front of him. Lyra and Naira stood, holding hands, their robes torn, behind them. A shadow moved huge, twisting, with eyes like burning coals. "What is this?" Ethan asked. "This is the future that comes if the bond is broken." Lyra's voice echoed. The shadow raised a massive claw. The ground split open, swallowing towers of silver and glass. Ethan realized with a chill that the city being destroyed was not alien. It was the Aurora Dawn. The vision shifted. Now he saw himself standing between the twins. Hands locked with theirs, a ring of light surrounded them, pushing back the shadow. But the light flickered whenever one sister stepped away. "Only together can we hold the darkness back," Naira said. "And only with you." The vision faded. And Ethan was back in the chamber, his heart pounding. He stepped back from the platform. Breathing hard. "You're saying I'm part of some prophecy?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Long before your world fell. The Serathian seers spoke of a human who would unite the twin mind." Naira's voice was quieter now. That human would be the key to survival in the time of burning skies. Ethan shook his head. "Why didn't you tell the council this?" "Because they would not believe," Lyra said. "And because there are some among them who would rather see the prophecy fail." Naira added, her eyes darkened. "There are those who want the Serathians gone. They fear what we are before." Ethan could respond. The door to the chamber slid open. A shadow moved at the entrance, then stepped inside. It was Lieutenant Mason, one of the security officers, his face tense. "You're not supposed to be here, Cross," Mason said, his hand resting on the sidearm at his belt. "I'm with them," Ethan replied. "That's the problem," Mason said, stepping closer. "The council thinks you're already under alien influence. They want you kept under watch until the vote." Lyra moved to block Mason's path, her voice cold. "Leave," she said. Mason's hand tightened on his weapon. "You're making this harder than it has to be," he said. Naira's eyes began to glow brighter. "You should leave while you still can." The air in the room thickened, pressing down like invisible weight. Mason's face twisted with discomfort, and he finally stepped back. "This isn't over," he said. Before turning and leaving, the door sealing behind him, Ethan looked at the sisters. "You've made enemies on this ship." "No, Lyra said we have." Naira touched his arm. "And they will not stop until they break the bond. That is why we showed you the truth." Ethan felt the weight of the vision settle over him. The burning sky, the shadow. The Aurora Dawn breaking apart. It had felt real. If it was true, then this wasn't just about breaking rules or choosing partners. It was about survival against something far worse than the council's anger. He glanced between Lyra and Naira. "If this is real, then we don't have much time," he said. The twins nodded in unison. "It has already begun," Lyra whispered, outside the chamber. The hum of the ship continued. But Ethan knew now it was only the calm before the storm. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, the shadow from his vision was already moving. Night cycle on the Aurora Dawn was never truly dark. The corridors kept a faint blue glow for safety, and the hum of the engines never stopped. Ethan sat in his cabin, staring at the ceiling. The vision from the dream chamber still burned in. His mind, the burning skies, the shadow, the Aurora Dawn breaking apart. He could still hear Lyra's voice in his head. "It has already begun." A soft chime from his door broke the silence. He stood, expecting to see one of the sisters. But when the door slid open, there was no one there. Only the empty corridor. Ethan frowned. Stepping out and glancing both ways, the hallway was silent. Then he noticed it, a faint metallic smell, like hot wires, coming from further down the corridor. He followed it cautiously. It led him to a maintenance hatch near the life support systems. The panel was slightly open, wires spilling out like veins. A small red light blinked from inside. His stomach dropped. It was an explosive charge. He had seen enough demolition work back on Earth to recognize one before he could move. A shadow detached itself from the wall. "Don't," a voice said. Ethan spun, seeing a man step out of the darkness. Lieutenant Mason. Except now Mason wasn't hiding his intent. "This ship can't survive your bond with them," Mason said, his voice low. "Better to end it now than let them control us." Ethan took a step toward him. But Mason lifted a remote detonator. Another step, and we all go out the airlock. The faint blue lights reflected in Mason's eyes. "You think they're helping us," Mason said, "but you don't know the stories I've heard. Whole planets taken over without a single shot fired. They get inside your mind, they make you want them, and when you're theirs, you belong to them forever." Ethan's voice was steady, but his heart was racing. "If that bomb goes off, you kill more than me and the sisters. You kill everyone on this deck." "That's the point," Mason said coldly. Ethan's mind raced. He needed to stall. "If you're so sure they're dangerous, why not tell the council? Why do this in the dark?" Mason's jaw tightened because the council is already under their influence. "I've seen the way they look at those two, like they're some kind of gods." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A faint vibration passed through the floor. Mason looked around sharply. "What was that?" he muttered. Ethan didn't answer. He knew. They were here. The corridor lights dimmed further. Shadows stretching along the walls. Then, without a sound, Lyra appeared behind Mason. Her movements impossibly fast. She gripped his wrist before he could press the detonator, her glowing eyes burning into his. Mason's breath caught. "You don't understand what you're doing," he hissed. Nira stepped from the other end of the corridor, trapping him between them. Her voice was calm, but dangerous. "You place bombs in the heart of your own people and call it protection." Mason's face twisted with fear and anger. "They'll thank me when they're free of you." He spat. Lyra tightened her grip, the detonator slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. Ethan kicked it away. Nira knelt by the hatch, her fingers moving quickly over the wires. The bomb's blinking light faded to black. "It's safe," she said, standing. Lyra released Mason, but her eyes stayed locked on his. "If you try again, I will know," she said softly. Mason stumbled back, rubbing his wrist. "You think you've won," he said, "but there are more who agree with me. The vote will end you." He turned and walked quickly away, disappearing into the shadows. Ethan let out a slow breath. "That was too close," he said. Nira's expression was unreadable. "It was only the first attempt," she said. Lyra nodded. "They will try again, until the vote, and if they win, we will be sent away or killed." Ethan leaned against the wall. "I saw his eyes," he said, quietly. "He really believes you're a danger." Nira's gaze softened slightly. "Fear is easy to grow," she said. "It spreads faster than truth." They began walking back toward Ethan's cabin. The corridor felt colder now, every sound sharper. Ethan knew Mason wasn't lying about one thing. There were more like him. More people on the ship who feared the sisters, and fear made people dangerous when they reached his door. Lyra placed a hand on his chest. "Tomorrow we'll decide." "Everything," she said, Nira added. "But before that, there is one last thing you must see." Ethan looked between them. "What now?" They glanced at each other, the silent communication passing again. Then Lyra spoke. "The council does not know the true reason we are here, and after tonight, you will." The hum of the ship seemed louder as they walked again, this time toward the very bottom deck. Ethan had never been there. It was where the alien quarters were. The lights shifted from human standard white to a softer silver glow. The air was warmer, carrying a faint scent of flowers and metal. They stopped before a massive door carved with glowing Serathian symbols. Nira touched the center. The door slid open with a deep sigh. Inside was a space unlike anything on the rest of the ship. Walls of flowing light. A floor that seemed alive, and in the center, a massive crystalline structure pulsing gently. Ethan stepped forward, feeling a strange energy wrap around him. "What is this place?" he asked. Lyra's voice was almost a whisper. "This is why we came," she said. Nira's eyes glowed brighter. "This is the heart of Seravia, and now it belongs to you too." The heart of Serathia pulsed like a living thing. Its crystal surface shifted in soft waves of light, glowing from deep blue to bright silver. Ethan felt its energy reaching into him, touching something deep inside his chest. It was warm, but not in a physical way. It was a warmth that sank into his thoughts, his feelings, his very sense of self. Lyra and Nira stood on either side of the crystal, their hands resting gently against it. "This is where the bond is made," Lyra said softly. "It is not like your human marriages," Nira added. "It is deeper, permanent, and cannot be undone." Ethan looked from one sister to the other. "And what happens if we do it?" he asked. Lyra's glowing eyes held his. "Our lives will be tied to yours. If one of us dies, all of us die." Nira's voice was calm but heavy. "Our thoughts will be yours. Our strength will be yours. And your pain will be ours." Ethan took a slow breath. "That's a lot to risk," he said. "It is also the only way to survive what is coming," Lyra said, her tone certain. Nira nodded. "The bond is the shield against the shadow you saw in the dream chamber. Without it, none of us will live long enough to see the next world." He stepped closer to the crystal. The energy seemed to grow stronger, wrapping around him like invisible threads. "What about the council?" he asked. "They will call it dangerous," Lyra said. "They will say it breaks their rules," Nira added. "And they will be right, but their rules will not protect them when the shadow comes." For a moment, Ethan hesitated. The thought of tying his life to theirs, of knowing that one mistake could end them all, was heavy. But then he remembered Mason's bomb, the council's threats, and the vision of the ship burning. The rules were already failing. Maybe it was time for something stronger. "What do I have to do?" he asked. The twins exchanged a glance. Then Lyra reached out her hand. "Place your hand on the heart, between ours," she said. Nira's voice was almost a whisper. "And do not pull away, no matter what you feel." Ethan stepped forward, placing his palm on the crystal the moment he touched it. A surge of light burst from the surface, wrapping around the three of them. The ship seemed to fade away. He was standing in a vast, endless space, filled with stars that pulsed like heartbeats. In front of him, Lyra and Nira stood glowing brighter than ever, their silver hair flowing in a wind that didn't exist. "This is the soul space," Lyra said, her voice echoing in all directions. "It is where we see the truth of each other," Nira added. Images began to flash around him, his childhood on Earth, the loss of his parents, the day the great collapse began. But he also saw memories that weren't his alien skies. Cities of silver towers. The moment Lyra and Nira were born under twin moons, the memories swirled faster until they all merged into a single light. He felt their emotions, joy, fear, hope, grief, as if they were his own. They felt his, too, and he knew it. No secrets, no walls, only shared truth. Then the pain came. A sharp wave ripped through him, as if something deep inside was being pulled out and woven together with theirs. His knees buckled, but the sisters caught him. "Stay," Lyra said firmly. "Almost there," Nira added, her hand tightening around his. The pain grew hotter, then suddenly broke, replaced by a rush of energy so strong it stole his breath. The three of them were surrounded by a ring of light. It spun faster and faster until it sank into their skin, disappearing completely. When the light faded, Ethan was back in the heart chamber, gasping for air. His hands still touched the crystal, and on the back of each hand, a faint silver mark glowed the Serathian bond mark. "It is done," Lyra said quietly. Naira's eyes softened. "You are one of us now." Ethan staggered back, still feeling the strange hum in his body. It was more than a physical connection. He could feel their presence in his mind. Faint, but constant, if he focused. He could sense their emotions. Lyra felt calm, but alert. Naira felt protective, and Naira felt. "What's wrong?" he asked. Naira's gaze flicked to the door. "They know," she said. Ethan's heart sank. "The council." Lyra nodded. "The bond leaves a trace in the ship's systems. They will see it." Before they could move, the chamber's alarm lights flashed red. A voice echoed through the intercom. "Ethan Cross, Lyra Serathian, Naira Serathian, you are ordered to report to the council chamber immediately." The voice was Admiral Harris's, and his tone was colder than ice. Ethan looked at the sisters. "They'll try to break this, won't they?" "Yes," Lyra said, "but now they cannot, not without killing you too." The alarm continued to flash, the deep hum of the ship vibrating through the floor. Ethan tightened his jaw. "Then let's face them together," he said. The sisters stood beside him, their eyes glowing brighter than ever. And for the first time, Ethan didn't just feel ready, he felt powerful. The council chamber was filled with tension. Every seat was taken, every eye locked on Ethan, Lyra, Q, and Naira. As they stepped inside, the silver bond marks on their hands caught the light. A silent proof of what they had done. Admiral Harris sat in the center, his face hard. "You broke the rules," he said, his voice echoing across the room. "You have tied your life to two alien beings without permission." Ethan stood tall, the twins at his sides. "I did what had to be done," he said. Dr. Kira Vance leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "You risked the survival plan for the entire human race." Naira's voice was calm, but edged with warning. "You mistake survival for control." "Ah," she said. Lyra added, "And your control will not save you from what is coming." The council members muttered among themselves. Some looked fearful, others angry. Before Harris could speak again, the lights flickered. A deep vibration shook the floor. A warning siren blared, filling the chamber with a pulsing red glow. A voice came through the ship's intercom. Unidentified vessels approaching. Multiple signatures, shields failing. Harris snapped orders to the crew. "Seal the chamber. Get me visual on the attackers." A large screen lit up, showing the blackness of space. Out of the shadows, shapes emerged, jagged ships with crimson markings, moving like predators. Ethan felt a cold shiver. "Dravik." Lyra whispered. Naira's eyes narrowed. "They found us." Harris turned. "You know these ships?" "They are hunters," Lyra said. "They do not take prisoners. If they are here, it is for us." The Dravik ships opened fire. Streams of burning plasma cutting across the void. The Aurora Dawn shuddered as shields flared and failed. Bulkheads. Sealed crew members scrambled to battle stations. The council meeting dissolved into chaos. Harris barked orders. "Escort them to secure quarters." But Ethan shook his head. "No, we can help." Naira stepped forward, her voice steady. "The bond gives us power you cannot match," she said. Harris hesitated, torn between anger and desperation. Another impact shook the chamber, the lights dimming again. "Fine," he said, finally. "But if you turn on us, we won't." Ethan cut in. "Now, let us fight." They ran through the corridors, the sound of distant explosions echoing closer with each step. Crew members rushed past carrying weapons, others dragging wounded. Toward the med bay, the ship's AI voice repeated in calm tones. "Hull breach, in progress on decks 4 and 5. They reached the main defense hub, a massive room filled with weapons, controls, and shield generators. Through the wide viewport, the Dravik ships loomed larger, spitting fire into the hull. Ethan felt a sudden surge of energy in his chest. The bond it was reacting to the danger. Lyra's eyes brightened. Now you feel it. Naira's hand brushed his arm. Focus, let it flow through you. They stood together, hands touching. A ring of silver light rose from the floor around them, spinning faster until it expanded outward. The crew gasped as the light shot through the walls, flowing into the ship's systems. On the external view, a shimmering shield formed around. The Aurora Dawn, the next volley from the Dravik, slammed into it and scattered harmlessly. Shields restored. A crewman shouted. Harris's voice came over comms. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But the Dravik adapted quickly. One ship broke formation. Speeding toward the Aurora Dawn's side, it latched on with claw-like docking arms. Cutting into the hull, boarders, the alarms shifted tone. Ethan's eyes met the twins. Then we meet them head-on, he said. They sprinted through the narrow corridors toward the breach. The first Dravik warrior emerged, tall, armored. In black plates, with 4 arms holding curved blades, its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, fixed on the sisters. Lyra moved first, her hands snapping out in a flash of light that sent the warrior stumbling. Naira swept low, kicking its legs from under it. Ethan finished it with a strike to the head from a fallen rifle. More poured in, their roars echoing off the metal walls. The fight became a blur, blades flashing, plasma shots crackling. Light from the bond weaving between the 3 of them. Each time Ethan's strength began to fade. The bond fed him more. Each time one sister was struck. He felt the pain and sent his own strength back to them. Finally, the last Dravik fell, its body collapsing in a heap of black armor. The air was thick with the smell of scorched metal and blood. The ship's AI announced, "Boarders neutralized." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, looking at the twins. "You were right," he said. The bond changes everything. But the victory was short-lived through the viewport. They saw the remaining Dravik ships regrouping. Their leader's face appeared on the comm screen, a gaunt creature with sharp ridges along its skull. "Give us the twins," it hissed, "or we tear your ship apart." Ethan stepped forward, his voice cold. "You'll have to go through me first." The Dravik leader's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die with them." The screen went dark, and the enemy ships began charging their weapons. Ethan turned to Lyra and Naira. "No more hiding. We end this now." They nodded, their eyes glowing brighter than ever. The hum of the bond filled the air, ready for one final strike. The Aurora Dawn shook under the power of the Dravik's weapons. Panels burst from the walls, sparks rained down, and the sound of tearing metal echoed through the ship. The enemy ships moved closer, their crimson markings glowing in the blackness. Of space, every crew member knew this was the moment. Either they survived now, or they didn't survive at all. Ethan stood at the center of the command deck, Lyra and Naira at his sides. The bond pulsed between them like a living current. He could feel their hearts racing, feel their determination burning as bright as his own on the main screen. "Admiral." Harris shouted orders. "All weapons online, target their lead ship." The crew obeyed, but everyone knew the Aurora Dawn's weapons alone would not be enough. Ethan looked at the twins. "They want you? They think taking you will end this," he said. Naira's voice was calm, but her eyes were like fire. "Then we show them what happens when they try." Lyra nodded. "The bond can do more than defend, it can strike." Another impact rocked the ship. An alarm screamed. Shields at 30%. Harris turned toward them. "If you can do something, do it now." Ethan took a breath. Feeling the energy in his chest, the bond's hum grew louder, as if it knew what was coming. Everyone cleared the deck. Ethan ordered. Harris hesitated, but saw something in Ethan's eyes that made him nod. The crew backed away, leaving only the 3 of them standing before the viewport. The Dravik fleet loomed larger, their weapons charging for the final volley. Ethan held out his hands. Lyra took one, Naira took the other. A blinding silver light exploded from their joined hands, spreading in waves across the deck. The metal floor vibrated, the walls shook, and the air filled with the sound of a deep, resonant tone. The light shot forward, piercing through the viewport without breaking it, stretching out into the void on the screen. The silver energy slammed into the nearest Dravik ship. Tearing through its hull-like paper, the ship exploded in a silent bloom of fire and debris. The others turned their weapons on the Aurora Dawn, but the light curved, wrapping around the human ship like a shield and a blade at once. Each Dravik blast was absorbed and sent back at them, shattering their formations. Ethan felt the power burning through him. It was almost too much, like holding a star in his chest. He could feel the twins straining too. But none of them let go. One by one, the Dravik ships fell, ripped apart by the bond's energy, until only the lead ship remained, its crimson lights flickering. The screen flashed, the Dravik leader's face appeared. Its voice was no longer cold, but desperate. "You cannot hold this power. It will kill you." It hissed. Ethan stepped closer to the screen, his voice steady. "Then I die protecting them." Lyra's eyes blazed, "And we die protecting him." Naira's voice was sharp as a blade. "And together, we end you." The bond's light surged one final time. A spear of silver energy shot forward, striking the Dravik leader's ship directly in its core. The explosion lit up the darkness, and then the blackness of space swallowed it whole. Silence fell. The hum of the bond faded to a gentle pulse. Ethan's knees nearly buckled, but Lyra and Naira held him steady. The bridge crew slowly returned, their faces a mix of shock and awe. Harris stepped forward, his voice quiet. "You just saved all of us." Ethan met his gaze. "You saw what the bond can do. It's not a threat. It's our chance to survive." Harris looked at the twins, then at Ethan. After a long pause, he nodded. "Then maybe it's time we stop fearing what we don't understand." The rest of the day passed in a blur. The crew worked to repair the damage, scanning for any more Dravik ships. Ethan stayed with the sisters, their connection stronger than ever. He could still feel their thoughts, quiet, steady, warm. They didn't need to speak to tell him what they were thinking. That night cycle, the three of them stood by the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and beautiful. "Do you think they're gone?" Ethan asked. Naira shook her head. "No, the Dravik do not give up. They will return." Lyra's voice was soft but certain. "And when they do, we will be ready." Ethan looked at them both. "Then we keep the bond strong," he said. Naira smiled faintly. "The bond is not just power, it is trust. And trust is harder to break than any shield." For the first time since leaving Earth, Ethan felt something he thought he had lost forever: hope. The vision from the dream chamber had shown fire and destruction. But maybe it wasn't the only future. Maybe there was another path, one they could make together, far beyond the Aurora Dawn, in the cold dark of space. A faint red light flickered and vanished. Ethan didn't see it, but somewhere deep inside, the bond stirred. The war was not over, but neither was their fight. And as long as they stood together, they would face whatever came.